Assalamu alaikum. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Uh, okay, so this lecture 8 and lecture 9, I will just highlight some important point here because this is most of the stuff you have already studied, and by reading you will get most of the informations. Okay, so if you have any issue after reading and if you don't understand, of course you can send an email to me about that. But some of the things which are a little bit new here, which I will emphasize, otherwise I will move on very quickly. So here, when we make the polymer, we have discussed in lecture 1 and lecture 2, we need a monomer, and that's a raw material. So here in this lecture, we emphasize on what are the raw material and where these raw materials come from. Okay, and we are not going to discuss how these raw material made because you have probably taken the petroleum chemistry course and you must have learned over there. This is not main target how these raw material produce. The target is you have to remember these are the raw material which are coming from this source and what polymers produce from these raw material. And the polymer mostly the one which we have discussed so far, not new, nothing very fancy, most of the one which you have encountered so far, which I am going to highlight here, which you have to remember now. So here some background is that first plastic made was cellulose nitrate, and you know cellulose come from plant wood pulp, so that's a natural source. And also we know synthetic polymer, which was first truly synthetic polymer made, was phenolic resin, which is also synthesized from phenol and formaldehyde, and that phenol and formaldehyde derived from coal. But nowadays, all these organic chemicals are mostly used for the production of polymer, are obtained from the fossil fuel like petroleum and natural gas. So mostly the petroleum and the natural gas are the main source of their raw material. But of course, this petroleum and the natural gas, they are present in the crude oil, and the crude oil, the first fossil fuel, they are not in actually, the monomer are not actually there in the form we use in the industry, so they are obtained in different form and sometime in the same form which we require to use, and sometime we just change a little chemistry to make them a monomer. So like mostly you have learned in the petroleum chemistry that the like the crude oil, we use to distill the crude oil, and during the distillation we got gasoline, diesel and kerosene. These are like 6 carbon, 8 carbon and 20 carbon hydrocarbon chain. But during that process, we also get some small molecules like carbon monoxide, hydrogen, which make us synthetic gas or sign gas. Okay, and also with that is used to make methane. Okay, and when we do pyrolysis or cracking of the crude oil, then during that process we get ethane, propane and butane, which is usually liquid petroleum gas, and also during the distillation of naphtha we got these small molecule. And from the aromatic plant, in the refinery we get benzene, toluene and xylene, which is called btx, and this is obtained from the catalytic reforming. So what is catalytic reforming, what is distillation, and how they are formed, this is not the target of this course. That, but you have to just remember these points. These are obtained from these steps in the refinery, which you have learned in polymer in petroleum chemistry. Okay, and these are the molecule which are undergo certain changes, and because of that certain changes they produce ethylene, propylene, butadiene, benzene, toluene and xylene, and these are used to make a variety of the petrochemicals and polymer. So this is the flowchart diagram which you have to remember, especially the one most of the polymer which we are continuously using in our course. So if you look at here, we have crude oil. So the crude oil, when undergo refinery process, we get gas oil, naphtha and petroleum gas. These all three can send to the olefin plant. So all the refinery, they have olefin plant. And also the natural gas plant, we can get the natural gas, purified this gas and use for domestic uses, and also from there we can send some of the natural gas into olefin plant. The natural gas is methane, ethane, propane. Okay, and these are petroleum gas, which is also the small molecule gas, naphtha, and gas oil. They all sent to olefin plant, and from the olefin plant, these are converted into ethylene, which is a monomer for polyethylene, propylene for polypropylene, butadiene for polybutadiene, and methanol and ammonia are used for some other applications. Similarly, the platform reformate from the crude oil can send to the aromatic plant, and from the aromatic plant we get the benzene, toluene, and xylene. And later on, this is converted into styrene and other monomer for different productions. Like benzene converted into styrene to make polystyrene. Similarly, toluene can also be changed into styrene, or xylene can be converted into terephthalic acid, which can be converted into to PET or polyethylene terephthalate. So this is the thing flow chart. You have to remember this one. Okay, how the question can be asked? Any combination can be asked. This flow chart can be given to you and ask you fill the missing information. And if the exam is online, then I can ask you by writing all these information and ask you what is produced by what is the connection, how you reach to this point starting from this point. Okay, now here now the ethylene. So you know from ethylene how you get the polyethylene. We have learned so many times. You can use a catalyst, a free radical initiator. Both technique can be used to make polyethylene. Similarly, if you have ethylene, you react with chlorine to make vinyl chloride. That will give you polyvinyl chloride. That we have also learned. And ethylene can react with benzene to make styrene, and then styrene can be converted into polystyrene, and styrene can also be react with butadiene to make styrene butadiene rubber. So, and if you take the ethylene and react with the oxygen and water, you get ethylene glycol, which can be converted into polyethylene terephthalate. And similarly, most important thing here is ethylene can be converted into vinyl acetate. Okay, and then vinyl acetate can produce polyvinyl acetate. One more polymer which is very important is called polyvinyl alcohol. So this is the thing you have to explore. Polyvinyl alcohol. The polyvinyl alcohol, if I say polyvinyl alcohol, so we should have vinyl alcohol as a monomer. But vinyl alcohol cannot be used as a monomer directly because of the tautomerism. So you have to figure it out what is tautomerism and why this vinyl alcohol cannot be directly converted into polyvinyl alcohol. So the alternate route is that first we make the vinyl acetate, which undergo hydrolysis, base hydrolysis under basic condition, and that produce vinyl alcohol. So you have to find out how this vinyl acetate converted into polyvinyl acetate, and then polyvinyl acetate how you produce vinyl alcohol. Okay, so that's your job, and it's very simple. That's why I give it to you. And this you already familiar. This is the repeating units of polyethylene, and the symbol is PE, and this is produced by the chain growth polymerization technique. We can use free radical or we can use a catalyst. So based on what system you are using, there are three different types of polyethylene. Low density polyethylene. So read the handout given with this lecture. What is detail is given there. So L is for low density polyethylene, high density polyethylene, and it is called linear low density polyethylene. So what are these definitions and why they are different? So if you use a free radical polymerization at high pressure and high temperature, the polyethylene which is produced using the free radical initiator technique, then this is called low density polyethylene. Why? Because we get a lot of branches, and because of the branches the polymer structure is not very compact, and density is mass over volume ratio. When the volume is big, so the density is mass over volume. So because the molecule polymer is not very compact, that is why the volume is large. So denominator is large, so density will be low. That is why it is called low density polyethylene. On the other hand, high density polyethylene is produced by using the Ziegler-Natta catalyst, and Ziegler-Natta catalyst actually give us almost a linear polyethylene, and because of the linear structure it occupied a bigger volume. Because of the linear molecule, it's compact, and due to that compact because of the compact structure, the volume is low. So the mass to volume ratio is different because the volume is low, so the denominator is small number, so the density will be high. That's how this high density polyethylene comes from. So high density polyethylene is purely linear polymer. Low density polyethylene is a branched polymer. It has several branches, longer size, smaller size. So what is this? Linear low density polyethylene. So linear low density polyethylene is also a linear polymer, but it has a very short branches. Here we have a larger branch like this one. Here liquid like low density polyethylene has different branches, but you have a very small branches like 2 carbon, 3 carbon or 4 carbon branches. Then it's called the linear low density polyethylene, and this is the different structures you can have. Look here, so you should know, you should be able to draw these structures, should be able to differentiate between the three and basic point between them, why they are called low density, why they are called high density. Okay, and there are some other examples as well. This is the granules look like, so this is not really important, just a picture for you. And this is their density, crystallinity, and different flexibilities and their uses. So most of the time this is use is going to be asked, where you use, what particular brand you use for what particular application. Okay, that is your main target here. Okay, and then we moved on to very ultra high molecular weight polyethylene or high density polyethylene, and this is the very high molecular weight, MW, weight average molecule, like around 6 million, 3 to 6 million, but it doesn't have any clear melting point. Okay, where it is used, what is the difference compared to other, please read the handout. Okay, and this is used for a special application where we require spatial, superior mechanical properties. Okay, now the next is propylene. So the propylene, again, remember the first slide, the propylene obtained, and then this propylene can react under catalyst condition. Again, catalyst, free radical catalyst, you get polypropylene, or you can react with chlorine to make it epichlorohydrin, which give you epoxy resin, and reaction with oxygen and ammonia, it give you acrylonitrile. So acrylonitrile can give you polyacrylonitrile. All these abbreviations, everything I have discussed in lecture 2. Okay, and if it is reacted to the styrene acrylonitrile, so you have a styrene acrylonitrile, and then means acrylonitrile, you react with styrene, then you will get styrene acrylonitrile, and then you react with this butadiene, then you will get acrylonitrile butadiene styrene. A is stand for acrylonitrile, B is for butadiene, S is styrene. So ABS rubber. And similarly, propylene react with benzene, so it will make cumin, and cumin and can be converted into phenol, and that will give you P stand for phenol, and F is for formaldehyde. So phenol formaldehyde resin. So that's abbreviation. Your job is to remember. So, and again, propylene can react with oxygen. It will give you propylene oxide, and from propylene oxide we can make these three different polymer. All these polymers name you are familiar. You have seen so far. And if you take propylene and you react with water, you will get the acetone, and then this acetone can react with bisphenol A, and that will give you polycarbonate. And if you react with methyl methacrylate, you get the copolymer. And you can change into methyl methacrylate, and methyl methacrylate can be converted into polymethyl methacrylate. Okay, you have acetone, and acetone can be converted into methyl methacrylate, and methyl methacrylate can give you polymethyl methacrylate. If you have acetone and acetone react with bisphenol A, you will get this polycarbonate. And you can also change the propylene to isoprene, and from isoprene you will get polyisoprene, both 1,4-isoprene and 1,2-isoprene, cis-isoprene, trans-isoprene, all you have learned in previous chapter. Last but not the least, here is the reaction of the propylene with acetylene. So propylene, when react, the last one, because this is the cursor, when I took the cursor there is some problem. So yeah, so I'm talking about the last one in the list. So propylene react with acetylene and carbon monoxide, it give you acrylic acid, and from there you get polyacrylates. Okay, so these all in this slide you have to remember. Okay, so the symbol is PP, and polymerized by chain growth addition. So you know all these things we have discussed before. Now the important thing here is polypropylene from the Oman's point of view, because we have this polypropylene industry. So the tacticity, when we prepared polypropylene, the tacticity is very important. What is the meaning of tacticity? This is really important, that's why I made this video. So the tacticity is the arrangement of the pendant group. So remember what is pendant group here is methyl group. In case of propylene, the methyl group is the pendant group. In In case of styrene, the benzene ring will be the pendant group. So if all these pendant groups are in one direction, then the tacticity is named as isotactic polymer. Okay, and this is very very important from the morphology point of view. This will make a lot of difference in the crystallinity of the molecule, amorphous nature of the molecule, increasing the melting point or decreasing the melting point. These are all important based on this morphology. So this is called isotactic, when they are all in one direction, either up or down, doesn't matter, but one is up and one is down, and it's make like M. So this is like your syndiotactic, one up one down, one up one down. This is syndiotactic. And if there is no particular trend, it could be up or down, or one or two time up, one or two time down, like no clear trend, then it's called atactic. Okay, so random, this is random, this is alternate fashion, and this is in the same site. So this is tacticity, very important to remember. So if this is just one example, I can put any example in the exam, just making a monomer and ask you what is the tacticity. You have to remember, look for the pendant group and see how these pendant groups are arranged. I may not necessarily give you the same example, but here you have to remember when something is called isotactic, something called syndiotactic, and when something called atactic. That is really important to remember. Again, how you prepared polypropylene. Isotactic polypropylene is the most useful polypropylene because it is crystalline. Isotactic, go look at this one. Isotactic, all are same side. When they all are same side, the all chain can stack together to make a good nice crystal structure. That's why it is crystalline, and that is why this is more important. In case of syndiotactic, there is no particular symmetry, so it is like a semi crystalline, some crystal and amorphous, and this last one mostly amorphous because there is no complete arrangement of the polymer chain on each other. So crystal structure cannot be formed. So when we use the Ziegler-Natta catalyst, we can control the tacticity. That is why Ziegler-Natta got the Nobel Prize, because before that nobody knows about this tacticity and how to control. Because of this catalyst, we can control to create isotactic and syndiotactic molecule. Okay, this is called Ziegler-Natta catalyst, and this is their important properties which you have to just remember, because mostly this may ask in the multiple choice question. Okay, so I'm not going to this, I have discussed so many times. Face mask, right? So now polypropylene is important to make face masks nowadays because of this corona. So you can, this is utilized in making that. Okay, and these are some example of polypropylene picture. Okay, these are the stuff you can make with that. Now butadiene, from the butadiene, again you can make these are the changes. You can read what changes you can make and what you can produce. So butadiene, directly you can make polybutadiene. So what you can use here, what is missing here? Initiator, of course, because this is a free radical reaction, so you need a free radical initiator or a catalyst to make polybutadiene. If butadiene react with hexamethylene diamine, you can make nylon 66, or it can also be made butadiene first converted into hexamethylene diamine, or butadiene can also be converted into adipic acid, and then these two can combine to make nylon 66. You have learned this one. And here benzene, butadiene converted into butane diol, and which can be converted into polyurethane. So what you need here to make it polyurethane, this is diol. What is next here? That is your job to find out what's the monomer, extra monomer you use here to make polyurethane. I have discussed polyurethane several times in chapter 2, I mean in lecture 2. And then butadiene can be converted into chloroprene, and from there you can get polychloroprene. Okay, and again butadiene can be converted into SBR. What is S? Styrene, butadiene rubber. So what is here missing? You have to remember that. And then SAN, styrene acrylonitrile. So what you have to bring it here to convert this butadiene into styrene acrylonitrile, and what you should write here to make acrylonitrile, butadiene, styrene. So these are all polymers. You have to remember some missing information here. I leave it deliberately for you. Okay, now after that we have this sorry. Now some of the slides, if you see here, is not present in my lecture, which I have actually deleted. So just compare this video with the file I uploaded on Moodle. so you can just ignore those slides. Okay, so I am moving directly into next slide which is required. So some of the slide, that is the slide for the methanol and then ammonia. I deleted the two slides related to what you make from methanol and what you make from ammonia, so just ignore that one. Now from benzene, because benzene is important to remember, from here you react with ethylene. What reaction you do here? Friedel and Kraft alkylation, and after the ethylene is introduced, that will be converted, I mean like ethylene, you will get ethyl benzene, which is also called which undergo dehydrogenation, means two hydrogen removed, so you get styrene, and styrene can give you polystyrene. So you know what you have here. Same, you benzene converted into benzene reacted with propylene, so this will give you cumin, and cumin react with oxygen to give phenol, and then from here you get polycarbonate, uh, phenyl formaldehyde resin, and epoxide. Okay, and then this is the conversion to get nylon 66, nylon 6, and here polyurethane and unsaturated polyester resin. So these are all conversion, and these in the here how, what's the first step, and then how you get. Okay, okay, and then we have another slide of toluene in your lecture, which is cancelled, and now you reach to directly to xylene, because xylene have two methyl group on benzene, which can be converted into 2-carboxylic acid. So xylene can be converted into terephthalic acid, and from terephthalic acid you can get polybutadiene terephthalate, and these are all polyester can be made from here. And if you have xylene, that can be converted into phthalic anhydride. From the phthalic anhydride you can get polyester, and you can also use it as a plasticizer. And from here, if you have xylene, can be converted into isophthalic acid, which can be used as a plasticizer and alkyd resin. Okay, so this is the main polymer product obtained from xylene. Okay, again more concentration onto the polymer which we have been studying throughout the semester, polystyrene. This is the symbol, and it's also produced by the chain growth addition polymerization and radical polymerization. This is the symbol, you already know. If all benzene ring is on one side, then it's isotactic, like this structure you can see, isotactic, syndiatactic, and atactic, the same logic which I have discussed in polystyrene, polypropylene. And this is their property, you can remember, and these are some important uses. And now one of the things, when polystyrene it co-polymerized with butadiene monomer. So you have a polystyrene and you add butadiene, or you have a butadiene rubber and then you add styrene monomer to co-polymerize it. Then a polymer is produced. It's called high impact polystyrene. The high impact polystyrene. Okay, and this is that can high impact polystyrene. So it has some elasticity. So it can and can absorb the shock. That's why it is called high impact polystyrene. And so far we don't have any syndiatactic polystyrene, so people don't know how to make it. So this is the target of the future. I mean, like, they are making, but still they are looking for how to make it in more effective ways. Okay, so now this is the structure of the high impact polystyrene. So this is your polybutadiene chain, and from any of the position, this is the double bond which is undergo free radical polymerization, and the benzene, styrene molecule added, and then the chain will grow. So you should know how this molecule is produced. Here I add for your help. I was initially thinking to just give you this and ask you how to make, but now I added this equation just for hints, and total you should know how to make it. Maybe I will ask you in this assignment or in the exam. Just give you half an hour, write the procedure mechanism, and then send it back. Okay, so now look at here. This is your butadiene. So what type of butadiene is 1,4-butadiene? So we actually exploit this double bond. So look at here, this is our one chain. Okay, one chain. So we want to show the reaction. That is why I'm showing A here and A minus A. So I'm just using two chain out and one in the middle from where I want to show how the reactions takes place. You can also show here or here, it's up to you, but just one place. So you add the free radical initiator. So the free radical initiator is stated here, and create a free radical here. and then you introduce the styrene molecule, and that's how the chain start to grow. And that's how the chain start to grow, and that's the way it's showing here. The styrene chain grow this way, styrene chain grow this way. One of the double bond of the butadiene actually used in this reaction, and that is called high impact polystyrene. Okay, and the next is your polyvinyl chloride, the symbol PVC, and it is also produced by the addition chain growth polymerization. This is a structure. Again, here you have to look where C and present, isotactic, endiotactic, diatactic, and this is their some important property which you have to remember. Okay, and where they are used mostly in the construction or pipe industry, it is used. Okay, this is polyvinyls uses, but one of the issue with the polystyrene is that it's really hard. So when we are making the toys, when we want to make up toys, we want to make it softer. For that we add plasticizer. What is plasticizer? It's a small molecule which are added with the polymer, so there is no chemical linkage, there is no covalent bond or any kind of attraction, just a physical blend, and by that the polymer becomes softer. Okay, and that's what we are doing in this. Is just an example of polyvinyl chloride for making the tube. And here, so this is the toy. If you want to make this toy with the simple polyvinyl chloride, you cannot make it because it's very hard, so we add plasticizer. So phthalate is added as a plasticizer. Since this is no direct bond between the polyvinyl chloride and this plasticizer material, therefore there is no surety that these material will not leach out. So sometimes the kids or baby when take this polyvinyl chloride, mostly they take in the mouth, so these phthalates can come out, and that's why it is dangerous. That is why it is banned all over the world not to use phthalate. So what they should use, this is the question I am leaving for you, what they are using nowadays instead of phthalate. So you have to find out and keep in your mind that why they are not using phthalate and what they are using nowadays to avoid this kind of hazards. Okay, and this is the polyvinyl chloride is like an amorphous, it cannot be crystalline, and it's in the amorphous form, whereas the polyethylene and propylene are crystalline and with some small portion amorphous. When the chain are stacked on each other, it's a crystalline structure, and when they are not, they are amorphous. So usually the polystyrene and polyvinyl chloride, they are usually amorphous, and on the other hand polyethylene and polypropylene are crystalline because majority of the polymer chain are stacked on each other. Okay, and next is polyester. We have discussed this in the class. It's produced by the chain growth condensation polymerization of the dicarboxylic acid or dianhydride with dialcohol. Okay, and the most important is polyethylene terephthalate. So whenever people say polyester, which means PET. Okay, and this is the reaction we have done several times in the class and in the lab, so you just remember this one. So in the polyester we can change this benzene ring to any other aromatic ring. We can also increase the number of carbon here to change the property of the polyester. So you see here in this case we have terephthalic group, only one benzene ring here, and here we have ethyl group. So this blue color here and the red color here then can be changed, that can be changed to change the property of the final product. That you can look here in this example are the uses of the melting point and TG. I will discuss this melting point and TG separately in chapter. Now you look at here, these are some important polyester uses. Now what I was talking about to change the aromatic portion or the aliphatic chain that can change the property, you can see here these are all polystyrene uses nowadays. So you can, this is the, yeah, that's the one. So look at here, but before that it was only benzene rings, that's called terephthalate group, terephthalic acid. Now instead of the benzene ring we have this naphthalene ring. So if we compare this polyester with the polyethylene terephthalate, then the melting point of this polymer or glass transition temperature of this polymer is much higher than this one. So what is glass transition temperature and what is melting point, that you will learn in the next chapter, and over there you will know why it is high. But simple is that as you increase the aromatic groups, as you increase the rigidness in the molecule, this aromatic ring, naphthalene ring is more rigid than the simple benzene ring. So this rigidity will actually responsible for increasing the melting point and glass transition temperature. Similarly, if you increase the number of carbon here, okay, if you increase this number like 2 carbon, then 4 carbon, and 6 carbon, and 8 carbon, so these aliphatic chain will act as an plasticizer. You learn about the plasticizer, something that can soften the molecule, but this is called this is already attached, so it is not the plasticizer as I discussed before. This is the covalent bond, so this is called internal plasticizer. So as the aliphatic chain increases, it will act as an internal plasticizer, and that's how it's actually softer the polymer. So that is why if you have butadiene chain, then this polymer polybutadiene terephthalate, here see carbon 4 carbon, or compared to polyethylene terephthalate, this one, see here both are same, so the difference point here is 4 carbon, here 2 carbon. So now we are comparing the aliphatic, so because of that this one lower the Tm and Tg. So if your aliphatic chain increases, that is responsible for decreasing the melting temperature and glass transition temperature. So that's what this is the nylon. So again, nylon, we have discussed this nylon very well in the class, so not much I can discuss here, we have already did. So also called polyamide, and it's produced by the chain growth condensation, step growth condensation polymerization by using the dicarboxylic acid or and diamine or acid chloride can be used, and this is the reaction we have discussed. And nylon 66, because of the presence of how many carbon you have here and how many carbon you have here, so this is called nylon 66. I have discussed this several times. Okay. So nylon 66. Now there are several other nylons we have, nylon 46, nylon 610, nylon 62. So I will discuss what is the effect of these groups when you have two combinations of carbon atom or only one carbon group, then what is happening in the next lecture. So sometimes these are the nylons property which you can read here, and where they are used, these are the important use, like for example this the bags in the car you see, uh, and parachutes. And yes, nylon 60 here is only one number, so in this case you use only one monomer to produce nylon, and the previous one you use two monomers, right? So in this case it is a ring opening polymerization of caprolactam, so you get nylon 6. So you count how many carbon here, that's how you get nylon 6, nylon 12, nylon 8, and so many others. So in the next chapter we will compare the property of the nylon with only one numbers and the nylon which have two different numbers. Okay, so that's a nylon. I think that's it. And yes, if you have a nylon in which all the aromatic things used, like here no aliphatic chain, all aromatics in this part and that part, diacid part and diamine part, all are aromatic, then this is called aramide, which is a very strong polymer, and the commercial name is Kevlar. So this is a very strong polymer which is also called, the commercial name is Kevlar, and this is your very strong polymer because of the presence of aromatic nature. And that's it. This is your lecture I think 8, and lecture 9 is about the composite material, which has not very large. I give you 2 slides for that and some handouts, so that you just have to read that one. And next video I will make for your lecture 10. Thank you very much. Bye now.